stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everyone. It is January 21st. This is the Broadwater County Commissioners' business meeting. This is where we take care of county business for 6,000 Broadwater County citizens. This meeting is open to the public and we welcome anyone to participate by promoting basic civility. Documents are available for review and copying prior to the meeting in the clerk and recorder's office. They are in this notebook. These meetings are recorded. They are on YouTube and the county website. These are the only videos of these meetings that are unedited and uncut. We follow Robert's Rules of Order and the county civility and open meeting policies. Under Robert's Rules of Order, all comments shall be directed to the board chair. Sideline conversations can be taken out into the hall. For public comment, please come up to the podium. Upon recognition by the chair, please state your full name for the record. Each time you speak, the reason for that is our video doesn't show who's speaking, and that way people watching the video know. For public comment, each person who wishes to speak will be given an initial 3 minutes to do so. We can watch together on this clock. More time may be allotted. Finally, this disclaimer has been approved by the Commission via the weekly minutes and applies to all public comment. Public comment is the opinion of citizens as individuals and does not necessarily reflect accurately on Broadwater County actions, operations, policy, practice, or processes. So with that, we will open our meeting to public comment on any subject not on the agenda and that the Commission has jurisdiction over. Tim, if you'd please state your name.
Good morning. Tim Ravendall, citizen, Broadwater County. I rise this morning to give, I'm going to say thanks to the folks in Virginia that stood up and said, hey, our Constitution and our rights are sacred and we have to defend them because silence is consent and we do not protect our rights if we let them go. A county right here in Montana took some of the same action on the 20th of this month. Stood up and told the officials that we want that to happen here as well. Taking, not necessarily using the term sanctuary, but to stand up and recognize that our Second Amendment rights are given by God, not government, and they need to be protected by the people. Years ago, I personally came to Broadwater County Commissioners with a resolution signed by a lot of citizens to have the Commission adopt that. And the attitude back then was, well, we're in Montana, we sure as hell don't need to do anything about that because our rights are never going to be under threat. I rise today to ask this Commission to consider resurrecting that in the interest of the citizens, to let them know that your oath that you took to defend the Constitution is not only sacred, but it also stands with a lot of clout right here in Broadwater County. Anyone that says they support the Second Amendment and then say, but, is not right. There's no exceptions to that law. And that's the law of the land. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
My name is Bob Brastrup. I came to this county in 1974. During my career, I've worked with somewhere around 200 county commissioners. I have a sister-in-law who was a county commissioner. And three of the most fantastic commissioners that I ever worked with. I never heard one of them criticize any one of the other three, or the other two. When they took a vote and the decision was made, all three of them went out and in unison went out and promoted whatever that project was, and they got a lot of things done. You guys as commissioners, I commend. A lot of people coming in, running for office, have some kind of an agenda. I don't think you guys have an agenda. And I think the decisions that you make, you are convinced, are in the best interests of Broadwater County. One of the things that I learned a long time ago is that answers when you're on the outside are a lot easier than when they're on the inside. So I reserve judgment for things until I have found out exactly what all the answers would be. When my wife and I were in Australia, we were introduced to a book called A for Attitude, written by an Australian author, and it's been endorsed by Lions clubs, by Boy Scouts, all sorts of organizations in Australia, and they buy this book and give it to third graders. It's written for third graders. We came back here and the Broadwater County Lions buy that book and provide it to third graders here in Broadwater County elementary school. When we give them that book, one of the lessons, one of the early lessons in the book, and the first one we work with the kids, is a statement, and this book is a self-esteem, how to live your life type book. One of the first lessons in that book is nobody is always right and nobody is always wrong. That's a good lesson to learn. I commend you guys for being restrained or extremely tolerant. I read a lot of things that you get blamed for that are not right. One that I read was how you had cut a budget. And apparently the sheriff had turned in a request for a budget, and what you approved was a little bit less than what the request was. Those of us that have worked in state and federal and county government have all had our requests cut at one time or another. You cut the request, you didn't cut a budget. But the people had the impression that you cut a budget. Sometimes maybe we need to correct those impressions. Read one the other day again where if a person bought something for the county out of their budget, they didn't have to have commission approval. But you guys approve the bills. Just because somebody buys something doesn't necessarily mean that it's appropriate. I've had some turned down over the years. I thought that what I did was right, but the commissioners agreed that maybe it wasn't, and I respect that, and I respect your decisions. So I thank you for your service, and I would also remind even the people that are here. I read where you were reminded the other day that you had to represent the people of Broadwater County, or the citizens. You need to represent all of them, just not the few that show up here at each one of your commission meetings. And I think you're doing a pretty good job, at least from the stories that I hear. So the last thing that I have for you is that I haven't had time, and I apologize because I've got to leave and take kids to Whitehall. But I haven't had time, but I will get it to you for your next meeting. Is that next week? Mm-hmm.
Monday.
I hope I'll have it to you for next week. The Lions Club will be doing their Easter egg hunt again, and we'll be sending you a request for use for the lawns out here. So anyhow, I thank you for this opportunity to talk to you, and you know, I look in the paper and I see what is listed as a commission meeting summary or something like that. It has no byline. I know of no other paper that does anything like that. It'd be nice to know who writes those summaries. But I commend you for your service. I thank you, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
Is there any more public comment? Public comment? Public comment. All right. With that, we have minutes from last week, January 13th.
Motion to approve minutes is circulated.
No, second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as circulated. Any public comment? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thanks, Ann. All right, Commissioners' Community Update. This is our chance to share with each other what we've been doing to make sure that we are all fully informed. So, Daryl, what'd you do last week?
Sure. We all attended the Board of Health meeting, attended our airport board meeting, which I received their thoughts on their board. So if that's something that we would like to take care of today, we could do that. And then I did go up to surplus property in Helen and look at the pickup and the dozer that road department is buying. And we'll wait for the report to come back from T&E on that dozer. And I did go to Whitehall and for your conversation on the transportation system they have over there. So each one of you one of those.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
I talked with a gal by the name of Paula Hippert. She's a transportation manager over there. She is a wealth of information. And I asked her a lot of questions on how they're funded and different things like that. So if this is something we decide to pursue, she'd be a great resource.
Fantastic. Give that to you for the record. All right, Mike, your turn.
Let's see, I went to the Board of Health meeting. I also went and took a look at the silos, at the gazebos at the silos. Myself and Mike Myers are gonna go take another look at those this week. Hopefully the snow will melt off the roof so we can look at those. And had a conversation with some hospital administrative people about the covering the cost of the storage of the ambulance bay and also a quarter of the office space in the kitchen area. They said that that would be on the agenda for this week's meeting, so hopefully we'll have some kind of a preliminary agreement with them on that. So we have a memorandum of understanding with them on who's paying what. That's pretty much it.
All right. I attended the MVM meeting, Missouri Valley Marketing, and they are an interested partner in the transportation, also working with Raidersburg on a couple of projects, so that's pretty exciting. They're also working with the Get Her Done Committee and BCDC on some, on Chamber of Commerce, on some community marketing as a group. And then Board of Crime Control, we had a training. Folks from each of the different disciplines with the Office of Justice Programs was in Helena on Thursday. Training was from 1 to 5. And basically they gave us updates on where Congress is at in funding the programs, victims programs, justice programs, law enforcement programs, and grants for each of those. So I gave you both some information, and I will put this here also for the record. So Anything else anyone forgot? All right, and certificate of survey. Any certificates of survey? No, I don't see Bernadette. All right, next on the agenda, it is exactly 10:15. We have Mary Hendrickson, Public Works Director. She's going to clarify the solid waste budget. And we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Having the podium is new. So when we have a presenter, they will come to the podium and present their information. When they are finished, they will sit down. Public comment will be called for, and anyone may come up and have their public comment. Per Robert's Rules of Order, all comments should be directed at the board chair. That person who was presenting will be given an opportunity to come back to the podium for a closing statement. So hopefully that will help us to promote some civility. And Mary, you're the guinea pig on this
Great.
new way of working with the podium, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. So what I wanted to do, what I realized after last week's meeting was that there was some confusion about the budget and how numbers were being reported. So what I wanted to do is just kind of explain how the operating cash budget works, and just get this information out there for people to see. So what I did is I pulled the operating cash reports and I put all that information into the spreadsheet, just to make it a little easier and have it on one page. And what I did is I looked at the budget. I started with June 1st of 2018. And the operating cash budget at that point, the beginning balance was negative $129,179.39. And during the month of June, we received a little over $18,000 in funds. We transferred out $69,000 in funds. And so those transfers out, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but those are for expenditures. So those were just payments for salaries and equipment, tipping fees, things like that. So because the end of June is the end of our fiscal year, our budget has to be zero. And so there was $179,580.14 that was transferred in. So that initial number that I used for the solid waste deficit was that number, because we had to transfer money in to balance that, the end of June, end of fiscal year budget to zero. So those funds were transferred in. So on July 1st, our beginning balance was zero, because that's what it was on June 30th. And we received a little over $12,000 in funds, but the funds that we transferred out at the end of July, and I'm sorry if I said the 1st of June, I meant the 1st of July. The funds that we transferred out on July 31st of 2018 was $222,963.89. That left us an ending balance of negative $210,516.27. So that was the end of July. The 1st of August, that is our beginning balance. We received a little over $6,000. We transferred out a little over $28,000, and that ended our ending balance. Let's see, where am I at? The end of August 2018 was negative $232,404.81. September 1st, that was our beginning balance. We received a little over $3,600. We transferred out $79,444.60, leaving us a negative balance on September 30th of negative $308,225.94. That again was our beginning balance on October 1st, 2018. We received a little over $56,000. We transferred out $31,068.05, leaving us a negative balance on October 31st and a beginning balance on November 1st of negative $333,631.11. One thing that I do want to point out in here is, let's see here. Our funds transferred out in September. We actually had 2 employees leave in September of 2018. And so some of that money, as I said, it was $79,000. And some of those funds were payment for their accrued comp or vacation hours. So those are things that have to be paid when employees leave. So that's why that number was so high. So again, and I just carried this through the end of January of 2019. But just so that there was an understanding that we'll have beginning balances, which would be the monthly end, and those numbers will change based upon expenditures out of that account. So we went from a negative $210,000 the end of July to a negative $232 the end of August to a negative $308 the end of September to a negative $333 the end of October to a negative $182 the end of November, and that's because we received funds in November of $173,373.27, and that would have been pardon me, the first half of the assessments that we received in November. And we can see that we do have assessments and other revenues that trickle in, but the majority of our assessments we receive in November and May. So just to kind of give you, these are snapshots of those months there.
Thank you, Mary.
You bet.
Any questions from the commission on Mary's proposal or budget or anything? All right.
All right.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Madam Chair, Tim Ravendall. I am the citizen and reporting for Redoubt News for transparency, etc. I brought this issue up at the last meeting that this was discussed, as Mary stated. Back in the October period time when there was public meetings going on to assess dealing with the deficit of the department and how to get it back on track, those figures were used of that $179.80, don't quote me on the number, but it was in that $180,000 deficit number. Last week, that same number was used again. Now today, thank you, Mary, for spelling out the fact that the deficit was growing when those meetings were being held, but the people did not know that when these meetings were being held. That was not being discussed. So the transparency side of that was working. That's why I continued to ask those questions. One more point on that budget that was, again, not mentioned today, which is part of it, is the department has taken out a loan approved by the commission to get that deficit under control, which is still part of the deficit, and it's not being discussed as far as transparency and public information. That's why I brought it up. I'm not here to beat up on it. I'm just here to try to get it out under the sunshine a little bit more. Thank you for your time, Commissioners.
Any other public comment? Public comment? All right. Commissioners, anything you want to say?
No.
Okay, I am going to say one thing. All of this information that Mary shared is all available to the public. There has been absolutely no hole in transparency in sharing any of this information. But there is a two-sided street here. One side of the street is the commission and our department heads who share this information openly and honestly with the public. The other side of the street is the willingness of members of the public to actually see that information, accept that information, and not twist that information. So, Mary, thank you very much for bringing this forward. And this is always available for anybody who has any questions or wants to talk to us about it, it's brought out for all of our reviews of the budget, certainly for the budget building season, which is roughly 6 months. So, Mary, did you have anything final to say?
I do.
Okay, floor is yours, or the podium is yours, however you want
Thank
to.
you. So, just my last comment, what I do want to say is, the reason I used the $179,000 deficit is because that was the deficit at the end of the fiscal year. And I was basing everything on trying to correct that deficit in a fiscal year, because it's not something that we can do on a monthly basis. That number is going to go up and down based upon revenues and expenditures. Revenues we receive or expenditures that we pay out. So for the sake of just trying to establish some consistency, from that point forward, I looked at the fiscal year number, because that made the most sense to me, because we are going to get revenues in from assessments. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda, we have a working meeting with Doug Ellis, clerk recorder treasurer, election laws and requests for school mill levy posters in the courthouse. For this, if you want to come and sit down at the table, Doug. For working meetings, it's just us. Everyone's welcome to listen, and hopefully we can decide how to move forward.
Well, the reason I asked you for this is I was contacted by Vanessa Flynn, who's a member of the school board. If it would be okay for the school to put, she got a handwritten note, would like to display an easel with school bond information, if that is okay. And I called Vanessa to see exactly what they were looking at. What she wants to display in the courthouse is just pictures and information of the elementary school and the things that are falling apart or things that are wrong. She didn't, it's not anything that would, in as many words, try to sway a voter to vote for or against the school bond. It's just showing what's wrong with the school and why they're asking for this bond. The only laws I can find that deal with this in the election laws are electioneering. It's 1335 211, and the electioneering deals only with election day. So that's why I came to you guys. I didn't know if there was anything in the county regulations that would keep them from putting something like this up in the courthouse, and I didn't want anyone getting into any trouble, so that's why we're here.
Thank you. And you guys know from our meetings at MACO that there's been a different way of thinking about the electioneering laws with the Commissioner of Political Practices. And so we've talked about this many times. I did reach out to Eric, and he sent me an email. He was going to send some more information. I haven't got it yet, but what he says is, quote, if a local government entity makes a paid communication that is publicly distributed, including printed materials, within 60 days of the election that does not support or oppose a candidate or ballot issue, and the paid communication can be received by more than 100 recipients in the voting district, the entity making the paid expenditure must create an incidental committee, name a treasurer, create a bank account, and report to COP. That's the Commissioner of Political Practices. The Commissioner believes the language is clear, the line is clearly drawn, and that local governments already know when they cross the line between, quote, regular and normal communication, unquote, and paid communication triggering reporting. An informational poster in a courthouse, which is also a polling station, makes it more problematic, as it surely is intended to be available to more than 100 people and takes public time and resources to create. So we got into a big discussion about this at our last district meeting. And basically what the argument was, well, what if somebody comes to a public meeting, say there's a mill levy election for the school, and somebody comes to the meeting, they're not advocating one way or the other, neither is the commission, but they have a general question. How does the mill levy work? If the commission even answers informationally anything about that mill levy, we are in jeopardy of violating what the Commissioner of Political Practices sees as electioneering laws. So Eric Bryson, Executive Director at MACO, along with a number of commissioners, went to the Commissioner of Political Practices to try and get this more defined. He said, nope, it's clear, and you heard that in Eric's email. They also went to the legislature last session to get this clarified. Legislature said, nah, we don't want to touch it. So where we're at now is we have a Commissioner of Political Practices who's drawn a very strong line that commissioners may not answer questions, may not be involved with sharing information. It sounds like we're okay until 60 days before the election. So we could hold the poster here, if that is the agreement of the four of us, until 60 days before. The reason that in talking to Doug I wanted to have this conversation is so that we have an opportunity to let the public hear why it is that we would be drawing the lines that we have to do. It's not because we don't support the school, it's because we're prohibited by the Commissioner of Political Practices. And if we decide, however we decide, I would like the four of us to write a letter together to let the school board know where we stand and why. So with that, and we all have the same information on this, we've all been to the same meetings. What are your thoughts?
Have we done this in the past? I don't recall doing anything like this before.
I don't recall this ever happening in the past, no. But it's been, how long since the high school bond was passed, 20 years ago?
Right, I don't know that any of us was here,
That
maybe
was before
Ann.
my time, so.
But I'm thinking for any middle levy that has been before us, I don't recall any types of things in the courthouse.
The last, yeah, I don't recall if the road or the sheriff's mill levy
Yeah.
years ago
Or
had
the,
anything
or
here.
the hospital on here recently.
I know I
Or
haven't,
district board, I guess I want to say. So I don't recall anything like that being in here, so.
I haven't seen anything since I've been in the treasurer's office. That was 2002.
Right.
We're not allowed to have this 60 days prior to the election date. Is the school also, since the school is a polling place, are they not allowed to have this literature on campus 60 days prior to the election?
I don't know that that would,
Or would it only be in the public, in the room where you vote? Because they have it in the high school. They could still have it in the high school, but they wouldn't be allowed to have it in the lobby or the library or that community room.
I think at the school, it goes back to the electioneering where it's just the day of the election. Isn't the 60-day because the commissioner's office are in this
Exactly.
building?
This is strictly against commissioners. And because our offices are in the courthouse, the question is, does it extend to the courthouse? So the school would be a totally different, defined totally differently, as I understand it, with the Commissioner of Political Practices.
Yeah, within the school, they would have to pull anything down on election day. It can't be within 200 feet, I believe is the distance of or 100 feet of any entrance to the building of a polling place.
I guess my initial thought is setting a precedent for things in the future.
And that's kind of why I wanted to come to you guys before I said anything. I don't want to put anything out there that's gonna even give the slightest idea that you're supporting this or you're against this for either this mill levy or anything that comes up. It's just, I want to put you guys in that position.
My thinking is a little bit differently, and that is, this is the people's building. And in order to put anything for a mill levy for the county, be it the school, be it the city, be it law enforcement, whatever, it's just information. It's just to give information to the public, and knowledge is power. Let the people have as much information as possible. So I would be for it, regardless of who it's for, up to the 60 days. That would be my opinion, but I think it needs to be, whatever we decide, we need to decide as a team. We need to stand together as a team. And in my opinion, I think we need to write a letter so that there's a communication to our partners as a team. Surely we're not taking any public comment during the working meeting, so you're welcome to stand. You may sit. We'll call for public comment in a little while.
I think I'd be in favor of putting it out there for up to the mark of the 60 days, because I think, like you said, it's a place for people to come gather information. If they're not people that don't have kids in school that are still paying taxes, they're gonna wanna know what's going on. They have no reason to go to school, but they may have a reason to come here. And then you can share information, whether they're opposed. I mean, we're not saying we're opposed or against it or whatever we are, but, and all it is informational. There's no campaigning going on. There's strictly an informational board, and they've added up at the school for the last 4 months that I know of. I wouldn't have a problem with it being here up until the deadline. And I think it's the same with any other mill levy here, regardless of what it's for.
So then according to what you read, Laura, they will have to appoint a board and...
No, my understanding, and we'd want clarification on this, but my understanding is within 60 days of the election, they would have to have the entity making the paid expenditure must create an incidental committee, name a treasurer, create a bank account, and report to the COPP, the Commissioner of Political Practices. Outside of the 60 days, it sounds like we're okay. And again, I would suggest that we get that clarified. But that is what I recall also from our many meetings on this. And then it does appear to be pretty clear in this email.
So what is the deadline of the 60 days?
I would have to go check the calendars on that. I haven't,
Is the election June 2nd?
no, the school election would be in May,
Oh, okay.
and I don't recall the exact date. It's May 3rd, 4th, first Tuesday after the first Monday in May.
Gotta love the first Tuesday after the first Monday. So early March would be where we would take it down, so they'd be able to have it up for about 6 weeks. And what I would suggest is if we do decide to move forward this way, I would ask them to put a sign on their sign that says, this must be removed by March, whatever, in order to comply with the Commissioner of Political Practices, so that people know why it's going down. And that would also help the school board members to know why it has to go down. Hello.
And are they running this on the school election, or are they running it with the general, with the primary?
I assumed it would be on the school election, just from what I've heard from Pam Watson, but not 100% sure on that one. We'll have to find out before we.
Yeah, because we wanna make sure we have the right date.
Yeah, she did, I talked to her Friday and she said that, they were gonna run a mill levy and the things on the election would be the mill levy and maybe a couple of school board members, so that leads me to believe it's gonna be a school election.
And this is just for the mill levy, not for the individuals, correct?
Right. Right.
I think that's an important distinction to make. So would you be okay with allowing this until the 60 days?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it, like she said, it's just informational, I just wanna show what's wrong with the building, some of the things that have deteriorated, and just information for people to see, to help them make their mind up, do we need it or don't we?
Okay, and Daryl, would you be okay with that too?
Yeah, I think so. I'm still kind of a little bit undecided at the moment. I'd like to hear what Eric has to say for this a little bit more.
Yeah, I can throw the email over to you.
Yeah,
There's more to my questions and then his answers.
yeah,
So.
okay. Yeah,
So do you guys want to maybe table this, not table it, postpone this until next week
I think that'd be
for
great.
a vote?
Mhm.
Okay, does that work for you, Doug?
Sure, yep.
All right. And then at that point, we will determine A, how to move forward, and B, what correspondence would look like.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good, I think. Something like this, you wanna have enough time to
Yeah.
think it through, and it's not a 5-minute decision.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
It's easy and simple on the surface,
Right.
but when you start getting into the weeds of what the law says and how it's interpreted by the Commissioner of Political Practices, it makes it a little bit more, a lot more complicated,
Right.
yeah.
All right.
All right,
Okay,
thanks,
you,
Doug.
You bet, thank you.
All right, do we have any public comment on that subject, Shirley?
I'm Shirley Wilson, and my comment, I have to agree with Daryl. I believe if you start this practice, you are going to open a can of worms that you will not believe what comes out of that can. I think to leave it without the sign in the courthouse would be absolutely best for the public. There are plenty of signs around town. I'm sure people frequent some of those places also. If it were up to me, I would say no in the courthouse.
Any other public comment? Public comment? All right. We will move on. It's 10:45. We are right on schedule. So we had last week the presentation from Rocky Mountain Development, and today we have the letter to approve the work plan as it was presented. Copy of the letter was sent out. I have another one in hard copy if you guys want to relook at it.
Well, they do some great work in our community, have some wonderful programs, and I support their work plan. So I will make a motion that we sign our letter in support of their work plan.
second the motion to approve the letter.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Rocky Mountain Development Work Plan as presented and sign the support letter. Any public comment? Public comment, all right. Those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Ann. Right, next we have accept signatures for the TED, Targeted Economic Development District, Water and Sewer District Board of Directors. Ann, you brought us the original petition.
Yep, here's the petition with signatures.
Thank you very much. As you recall, there were some questions about two of the signatures. Those have been, all three have been verified. And all we need to do now is accept this, accept their offer to serve on the district as the board of directors. And here's the petition for appointment, also an original. And I think we need to infill that in the resolution that we passed pending the approval of the signatures in DOD.
All right, good. Thanks, Ann, for that. I guess I'll make a motion that we accept the signatures for the TED Water Sewer District Board of Directors.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the signatures and petition for the TED Water and Sewer District Board of Directors. Any public comment?
Madam Chair, Tim Roundell, Readout News. Just a quick clarification. How many members are on this sewer water district board, and how many signatures were gathered to create it? And in the district itself, how many citizens are being represented? If we got the figures.
Daryl, you've been working on this. Can you answer any of those
Yeah, so
questions?
the only folks that can be on this board are people that are within the TED itself. So the business owners, that's it, no citizens.
All right, thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thanks, Ann. All right,
Excuse
that
me,
is,
how many signatures were on the petition? That was my other question.
3.
3, thank you.
that is it for our agenda. We do have a consent agenda, and this is carryover and carry on of past agenda items or ministerial actions. So we have a couple. Daryl, I see you looking through paperwork, so I'm going to give you the floor first.
All righty, thank you. So we did have our airport board meeting last week, and we discussed their board members, and it's our policy to allow the board to vet any potential new board members, and they made their recommendation to us is that they would like to continue with their remaining board because they have this big project that they've been working on for the runway improvement, and they'd like to keep that continuity if they could. So that was their recommendation to us. So they would like to keep Al Irving and Bob Hollister as board members. They invited the other prospective board members to attend their meetings and be coming forward so that they would be able to be considered for the next time appointments are due. So I was looking at the list here. It looks like both of them were due here in 2019. We want to split them up so we kind of do a 2-year and a 3-year.
How many are due up in 20 and 21?
Only one, looks like, and 20, yeah.
And then none in, and then the other 2 in 21?
I don't see anything listed for anybody in 21.
Okay. Yeah, we could go either way. My guess is if we just have one up in 20, the other 2 are 21, because it's a 5-member board, and we have 2 this year. So if we wanted to do both of them for 3 years, then we'd have 1 next year, 2 presumably the following, and then 2, these 2
Sure.
up in 3.
Okay.
So however you want to do
Well,
that.
let's do that then. We'll just make a motion that we approve Bob Hollister and Al Irving for 3-year terms on the airport board.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Al Irving and Bob Hollister each to 3-year terms on the airport board. Any public comment? Public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And I think it's important to know, so people know that they're representatives from both city and county on this board.
That's a really good board, and those 2 are very active, knowledgeable board members. I think that's a good
Yeah,
choice.
they do a lot of work out there on their own. They donate a lot of time making improvements out there at the airport, so these guys, they do a great job.
Yeah. And Bob lives on Camden Ferry Airport, which is also encompassed by the airport board.
Sure.
So it's nice to have that representation too.
Yeah. One other thing that came up at the airport board was they do have a new courtesy car, so they would like to get rid of the old one, the old van,
Yes.
and doesn't really have a whole lot of value, but since it is county property, they wanted to dispose of it properly. And looking at the MCA, it states that if the value is in excess of $2,500, then we would have to go through that process. I really don't think it's going to be worth a whole lot, but so if it's okay for them, would they just advertise it in the paper to sell it? That's kind of reading through our policy. That's what it looked like they would do.
There's an online, it's kind of like a government eBay.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that.
Okay,
Because I think they'll get a little bit more for it.
sure,
And there's more people that see that.
right.
And then, yeah, they could advertise it locally, the community website. It would be nice to have an area for items for sale there.
Okay.
It's a listserv of 350 plus people and goes directly to them. So that would be, or that's the email from the website. But
Right.
those would be my suggestions. I agree with you, I don't think that van is worth that much, but I think we still need to get it out to as many people as possible.
Sure. Okay, I will get a hold of them, let them know that's what they need to do.
All right, anything else?
And I think that was it.
All right, Mike, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. So what we have is a little bit of mail. And to start with, these are letters to Pecha, DHM, and Sanderson Stewart. Sent these out for you guys to review and offer edits, and that is for the Silos Master Plan. We met last week in a working meeting and then voted as a commission to grant the request for proposal to Robert Pecha and Associates for the Silos Master Plan. And this is merely letters to all the people who put in RFPs to let them know.
All right, yeah. They look great, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the letters for Robert Pescia, DHM, and Sanders Stewart for the RFPs for Canyon Fair for the silo property.
No, second.
So moved and seconded to approve and sign the letters for the 3 companies that put in for the RFP for the Silos Master Plan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. we have a little bit of mail. This is from Vision Zero, and this is the gas tax that funds counties for road projects. What we have for the 2020 allocation is $69,561.47. So what we need to do is decide what we want to do with this, put together a resolution, have a public hearing, and then turn that into MDT, and that will be added to the road account. Can't be used for anything but road and bridge, and that's about a $25,000 increase from last year.
That's right.
Now, any questions on that?
Last year was only a partial payment though, was it? Was last year the first year?
No, the year before
Year
that was a
before,
partial
okay.
payment, yep. And it was still quite high. I expected last year's to be higher, so the 69 is more in line with what I think we kind of thought it would be. We have a letter from the US Census. They would like us to review, they sent a DVD, and they would like us to review the boundary for Broadwater County as well as our CDPs, our certified designated places within the county, and then to respond back to them by March 1st. So what I would like to do is circulate that DVD, give us a couple of weeks to review it, and then put it on the agenda in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
All right,
What's the deadline on
March 1. So we have the month of February. Probably shouldn't wait till the last minute. So I'm going to give this to Ann. Our paperwork we sent in is here, and this will be in our office.
that? Okay.
Okay, we have a vendor invoice. This is from DEQ, Motor Vehicle Recycling and Disposal Bureau. And this is for recycling. It's this is the junk vehicle program. It's for $13,598.20. Does not cost Broadwater County anything. This is what we get in order to manage that program. So with your approval, I will sign this and send it off.
Sure.
And I will ask for that to be motioned and seconded so that we have it on the record.
Can I look at the letter real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, I'll make the motion then that we sign the letter for the implementation of our motor vehicle recycling and disposal program.
I'll second it.
This has been moved and seconded to sign the letter to implement and continue to operate the motor vehicle recycling and disposal program. Any public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I'll sign those in just a second. Next we have payroll. And this is for 1/15/20 in the amount of $204,319.24.
I'll make a motion to approve claims and set them out.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay payroll in the amount of $204,319.24. Any public comment? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we have claims, two sets. And for a total of $92,655.98.
I will move we pay the claims in the amount of $92,655.98.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the approved claims in the amount of $98,655.98. Any public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. There you go. We have a second set of approved claims in the amount of $85,484.53.
I'll make a motion to approve claims instead of
No, second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the approved claims in the amount of $85,484.53. Public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. There you go. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, that's it for the agenda, that's it for the mail. Anything else for the good of the order?
Before we came down, Nicole gave us all the letters for our newly appointed board members to
Excellent.
sign, so it's in our office.
Okay, we can do that and then give those back to her.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else from the public? All right. I'm going to call this adjourned at 11:02.